There's a common fear of drawing too dark because it can't be altered or removed. Well, by the time we reach the end of this video, you'll have the means to remove or adjust it in ways that might surprise you. So don't be afraid to draw dark, either line or tone, because blacks and darks are our best friends. They open up a wide range of greys for you and increase the impact and presence of your drawings. They add life. And because you can adjust your darks at any stage, you're simplifying the drawing process too, by dividing the job into manageable parts. If you watched Line and Tone at War, everything was split up into line-based detail and tone-based shading to remove confusion. And that made the drawing far easier to manage. Well, this time we'll divide it another way, by first drawing very light values dark enough to be clearly visible, which makes drawing them so much easier, and then adjusting those values until they sit comfortably in the drawing. So, for example, to achieve a smooth fade into the main highlight on top of this nose, I'll extend the detail layer too far, but lightly. That raises it out of the paper's tooth and up onto the surface. I'll add the tonal shaping on top. And finally, I'll use my trusty eraser to gently fade the edge for a really subtle result. But did you notice that my eraser needs nothing more than a very light dabbing motion onto the paper surface? No pressure used at all, and no rubbing. That's because I was using Blu Tack. It's the original semi-sticky wall putty designed for holding posters up on walls. And it behaves a little like a kneadable eraser, but it's far more versatile. Years ago, I bought a faulty batch of kneadable erasers that crumbled in use. And in desperation, I grabbed a piece of Blu Tack, which I was using to hold my paper to my drawing board, and I've used almost nothing else since. This eraser is so versatile that I still haven't exhausted its range of uses. Of course, you could try anything in this video with a kneadable eraser. They've probably improved over the years and it might work well for you. But Blu Tack possesses two qualities not found in kneadable erasers: an enhanced ability to be readily formed into any shape, and an inherent important light tackiness. It's slightly sticky. And that stickiness means Blu Tack can lift graphite right out of the tooth without damage to the paper. All it needs is a touch, or light dabbing, which is very unlike solid erasers and kneadable erasers to some extent because they require a rubbing action. And rubbing requires pressure, which can force some graphite deeper into your paper. And they're also not very effective because they can't easily absorb the graphite or discard it. And understanding why that occurs is important, so let me quickly explain. The crystalline structure of graphite is flat plates. That's why it's shiny. And why it's an excellent dry lubricant, because those flat plates very easily slide over each other. Any solid eraser will pick up the flat plates and, once saturated, slide those plates over those remaining on the paper. And that occurs very readily. And when the plates slide, they're quite likely to grind others deeper into the paper. But Blu Tack, because of its slightly sticky nature, removes every grain of graphite without any detrimental movement. It's a graphite magnet. A quick downward touch embeds the grains for immediate removal and causes no harm to the tooth of your paper. Also, it becomes softer and slightly stickier when warmed in your hand, so it removes even more graphite with each touch. Oh, and this is important. Whatever it picks up, it does not redeposit. It remains locked in the body. This is how efficient it is. Take a piece of the usual drawing paper, this is Conqueror Diamond White, and generously apply a saturated coating of 6B or similar to a small area. A harder grade will do, this is 4B, but it has to be one that you know a regular eraser will smear and not easily remove. I'll form the blue tack into a smooth cylinder. And, using no pressure, roll it once over the shaded area. Now look at how much has been removed. To remove more, begin rocking and rolling until it has removed as much graphite as it possibly can. And notice how the graphite is removed in ever decreasing amounts by the increasingly dirty blue tack. That will give you so much subtle control. And whenever you want a faster result, just use a clean face to easily speed up the process. Of course, as it takes in more and more graphite, it will need to be cleaned occasionally, and that's easy. Take a ball of putty in one hand and either pull off small pieces or stretch it out into a long rope. And then roll the whole thing back into a ball. Job done. Now, however clean, blue tack will not return your paper to white. The very act of drawing will have pushed some graphite a little too deep into the paper for the blue tack to reach. So now, and only now, reach for your soft art eraser and attempt to erase the final remnants. But be aware that from this point on, you are flattening and probably causing damage to the paper's tooth. So is that blue tack's only party trick? Heck no! Not only can it remove whole areas of graphite, it can just as easily fade areas gradually, and even cut shapes into it, and a whole lot more. Remember when I called it a graphite magnet? Well, that's what it is. A tool that can cleanly lift graphite, and without any rubbing action. All that's required to embed the graphite grains into blue tack is a quick touch. Maybe a roll or rocking movement. But do try to avoid any form of dragging. Dragging lightly is a technique I'll explore in the next video, but for now, accept that a smudge is the most likely result. Okay, so far we've removed an area of dense graphite. But blue tack can get into small places that other erasers find impossible, and it can easily be formed into two basic shapes to cut marks into previously applied graphite: spots and lines. Now to spot erase, simply take a piece of blue tack and pull a finger out into a point. Gently touch the point onto the shading and lift up. You can erase very small spots with a point, and the lightest touch is all that's required. Now, if your spots look more like rings, you're pressing too hard, and the blue tack's point is collapsing into itself. So pull a new point and touch lightly. That's better. And if you want to erase more spots to near white, keep reapplying a new point. And if you want light but not white spots, try reusing the same point. Partially graphite coated, it will pick up a lesser amount each time you apply it, giving you a lot of control. Now that said, you should experiment to discover what works best for you. And the same applies to lines. Carefully pinch a sharp, straight edge. The more rounded and regular the curve, the better. Now don't rub or drag or press at all. Just touch and roll the edge along the graphite. And to extend a line, simply repeat. In practice, this eye has had the all-important key highlight cleaned and returned to white. And this is important because that single highlight often dictates the entire range of tonal contrast throughout the drawing. Here, the water at the base of the eye has been brightened with an edge of blue tack, an area so narrow that no conventional eraser could have succeeded. And the same is true here, including the edge of the third eyelid. Not even a kneaded eraser can accurately brighten such a narrow area. And if you try to use a mono or other solid eraser, you'll drag graphite along the edges and leave them unrealistically soft. Shiny, wet highlights require sharp edges for realism. And in all three cases, blue tack was used to create their secondary highlights and gently adjust the form of each iris until the desired effect was obtained. But I'll tackle those more refined uses in the next video. And finally, a ball of blue tack can last years in practice, and when its days are finally over, whether you use clutch or wood case pencils, it's always a good idea to clean graphite dust from the business end whenever you sharpen it. So I keep an old lump of blue tack stuck to my drawing board to push my pencil point into for immediate cleaning. Well, next time I'll explore more advanced and immensely useful uses of blue tack, from inventing foliage to creating the most subtle light values imaginable. And you won't want to miss that one, so subscribe now, because you seriously don't want to miss the follow-up video. I mean, this was just the introduction to its basic uses, but blue tack can achieve so much more. Well, do let me know in the comments if this has helped you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for more blue tack tips soon.